Folks, at this point, crypto seems like a full-on scam. It's crashing pretty terribly, and loads of people are losing money left and right. But despite this volatility, some people just swear that good days are yet to come. In today's video, we'll be talking about one such person, Cathie Wood. We'll also talk about how FTX may have broken the rules in Australia. Be sure to stay until the end to learn all about it. First up, will Bitcoin hit $1 million? Alright, this sounds like a joke, but a prominent investor has insisted that Bitcoin will reach the price of $1 million by 2030, despite the absolutely chaotic fallout from the FTX collapse. The said investor is standing by her bold prediction, which in 7 years will either make her look like a genius or really stupid. Who's this investor? Well, it's none other than Cathie Wood, the chief executive of ARK Invest. She made the bullish prediction in April 2022, when the world's largest cryptocurrency was trading at $41,000. But now it's well below that amount. It's trading between $15,000 to $17,000. Since then, this whole thing has been a nightmare for crypto investors. Bitcoin has lost more than half of its value because of a series of high-profile implosions. This includes Terra and Luna coins, hedge fund Three Arrows Capital, and the lender Celsius. And then the stunning collapse of FTX, which happens to be one of the largest crypto exchanges, is yet to have the biggest contagion effect, because let's not forget, the Bahamas-based firm is dealing with a web of affected creditors. So it's quite surprising what Cathie said, because very recently, she told Bloomberg that she's standing by her prediction that was made in April. Really, Miss Wood? After all this chaos? Apologies, but we're having a hard time believing you right now. But at the same time, she does know what she's talking about, because let's not forget that she's a major investor in the US-listed crypto exchange, Coinbase. Up next, what exactly did she say? So we must talk about what she said, because she has claimed that the price of Bitcoin will rise by more than 6,000%. That's absolutely crazy. Y'all think maybe she's just trying to drive up hype for her own business? Well, let's not start blaming her just yet. Let's just see what she has to say about the whole darn thing. She stated, "Sometimes you need to battle tests. You need to go through crises to see the survivors first of all, but really to battle test the infrastructure and the thesis. And again, we think Bitcoin is coming out of this smelling like a rose." No doubt, she did concede that the latest market turmoil has scared off institutional investors for the time being. However, she did then say that once everyone does their homework, they'll start to feel a lot more comfortable. They'll be able to understand it all a lot better. She also insisted that the underlying blockchain technology was rock solid. She mentioned that by taking a look at the Bitcoin blockchain and Ethereum, we realize that this infrastructure has not skipped a beat throughout the entire crisis. In fact, according to her, the fact that Bitcoin's hash rate is at an all-time high tells us that this network is secure. She also stated that the infrastructure works beautifully. She also argued that the collapse of FTX was just a fraud, but it wasn't on the scale of the whole Bernie Madoff thing or the whole Lehman Brothers chaos. Next up, she's quite sure about what she's saying. She also stated that putting everything into perspective, we see that the entire crypto asset ecosystem is at $800 billion US. Apple itself is a lot higher in terms of market cap. So while many folks think that this will be something at the scale of Lehman Brothers in 2008, we must realize that the banking ecosystem at that time was in trillions and trillions of dollars. As of right now, FTX owes about $5 to $10 billion to creditors, but Lehman was $1.2 trillion in claims, and Madoff was $64 billion in claims. She believes that the knock-on effect just won't be as bad as it was at the time. Moving on, things aren't good though. Over the past few days, administrators for FTX revealed in court filings that the company owed a whopping $3.1 billion for its top 50 creditors, and there are about 1 million investors that are facing total losses in the billions. Oh, and there are more than 29,000 Aussies who've lost extremely large sums. 3 in 4 folks have lost money, and this all happened after a study that stated that roughly 3/4 of folks who invested in Bitcoin also lost money. Economists at the Central Bank of Central Banks, the Bank of International Settlements, analyzed data on crypto investors in 95 countries over the last 7 years. Their findings showed that 75% of folks have lost money. During the period studied, Bitcoin rose from $250 in August 2015 to peak at $69,000 in November 2021. Oh, and the number of people using smartphone apps that act as exchanges also rose from 119,000 to $32.5 million. Their analysis showed that the price increases had been tied to greater entry by retail investors. And as it always happens in economics, smaller investors stopped buying because of the high price, and the larger investors started selling to make a quick buck. This meant that the demand was low and the supply was high. And as we all learned in Economics 101, that means the price dropped. However, the researchers didn't have direct data on the losses or gains of individual investors. Now was this study even legit? Okay, firstly, no need to ask this question, because it's from the Bank of Central Banks, and while they didn't have data on individual investors, they were able to extrapolate based on the price of Bitcoin when new investors began using cryptocurrency trading apps. Oh, and the study also found that the biggest segment of investors, at 40%, were men under 35. This segment is commonly identified as the risk-seeking segment. Researchers also found that most investors saw it as a speculative investment, so these young men tended to be more active in trading after the rise in price, which doesn't make sense really. Everyone knows, buy low, sell high. So Cathie's an expert. We can't disregard what she says, but these folks are also experts. We can't disregard what they say either. We guess we'll just have to wait for 7 years to see what's gonna happen. And with that out of the way, folks, let's talk about how FTX bypassed the regular process for obtaining an Aussie financial services license. First and foremost, they can't just do it legally, can they? So here's what just happened. The Australian Securities and Investments Commission suspended the Australian Financial Services license for FTX. So FTX obtained the license in December 2021, and that allowed the company to deal in Australia. However, how did it get the license? Well, they didn't. They just acquired a company that already had one. So this is actually considered a shortcut to getting a license and is not at all the proper procedure. But some blame does lie with the financial regulators too. As of right now, crypto exchanges aren't regulated in Aussie land beyond the Know Your Customer laws, which are really just laws to counter money laundering, to be honest. But this license would have allowed the company to provide financial advice and offer other non-crypto products. A researcher at a university stated that many folks have the impression that if the company has a license, then the people are fully protected. This isn't the case at all. Another professor, Dr. Pamela Hanrahan, stated that a company having a license would mean that folks are more inclined to use their services. So yeah, this license was obtained in dubious ways, and then it gave folks hope. It showed them that this whole thing could be trusted, while it clearly couldn't have been. Finishing up, what's the problem? So here's what the problem is. The Aussie regulator needs to be notified when someone is taking over the license, but it doesn't approve a change in control or receive material to reassess the business model. This means that just because a company now has a license doesn't mean that they've been approved. This is a major loophole in Australian law, and despite the fact the regulator increased its crypto team, this still ended up happening. Consequently, experts now agree that the best way to ensure that there's no uncertainty is to regulate crypto a lot more than it's being regulated right now. But don't worry, y'all folks. Legislation to safeguard crypto custody and regulate these changes will be introduced into federal parliament somewhere in 2023. On top of that, Jim Chalmers, the spokesperson for the Treasurer, has stated that the Australian government has learned from the FTX collapse, and they'll work towards improving the laws. That's a wrap for this video. Do you folks really think that the price of Bitcoin will reach $1 million? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.